Hello everyone, welcome back to City Skylines, to the Aurelia city. We are back in the center. We returned there to build the big library with all the nice places around it, and also to expand some of the skyscraper areas. And also we made some nice sunken light rail station right here. Anyway, today we will take a look at this place on the map, which is quite big, but we will do some big landscaping, do some nature detailing, and expand the city all the way to the edges. So let's do it. Okay, so we have a very important task in front of us, and that is basically just filling all these places that are marked by the already existing infrastructure. I wasn't really all that ready to just create some new city blocks somewhere, past what we already kind of established with some of these main roads, because it's just not really going to add anything much like great look into the city, right? So basically past the main road where I built the library on the edge of it in the past episode, for example, that the main road that goes into that roundabout interchange, we're not really going to build any of these large blocks, even though later I am going to add some low density expansion in that direction, which is nicely going to complement the transition towards more natural places. Now, this place on the waterfront, though, this was very much needed to fill that with some kind of high density, even though I was a bit fed up with that, so I just decided to slap some of these low density green cities, eco buildings here and there into these blocks. And they really do look nice. I really like using them because they are already detailed, which is usually something I don't like with buildings I download from the workshop. But since these buildings, the eco buildings, there are so many of them, so many different kinds, you can easily just create an entire neighborhood with just them. And they are obviously the best placed in 90-degree blocks. And if you have them, you don't really need to do anything else. Not really going to go that far as to say that I might even zone these places, but I'm not even sure if zoning works with all the mods that I have right now. But it certainly might be a possibility to actually create a good-looking neighborhoods. I know, a bit of a blasphemy from me to say that, but yeah, these green cities buildings, the older it is, the DLC, the older it is, the more I do like it, even though I didn't get it at first because I thought it's not that great. But now I think completely otherwise. Anyway, so we're going to see a lot more of those green cities buildings, by the way, but right now we're just going to concentrate on filling some of these blocks. Also, I think that after today's episode, after today's build, the population of the city increased a lot. You can already see it in some of these shots that I'm actually having the simulation running, because I kind of wanted to get the traffic just into the city. Obviously, if you build huge parts of the residential areas in your cities, you have all the people moving in the vehicles, right? And they are usually just going to block all your interchanges. So I really wanted to get that out of the way before I'm done with these projects, so that I'm not going to have to wait when I'm going to record the cinematics, right? Because that would obviously look bad. So that's the reason why I'm running the simulation here and there, and also why we can see in some of these shots some traffic jams, because that's all the people moving in. Now, all of these buildings blocks around the highway, I really wanted to fill with something so it goes all the way to the highway, and not really do anything like super low density right next to or on this side of that main avenue, because I really want to have that transition there going, and you will immediately see that in the cinematics what exactly I mean by that. So if I was placing some kind of low density buildings in these blocks that I'm doing right here, I really did that only in a couple of places, and not really all the way to the edge, especially in here, because there's going to be that transition on this side of the highway and the main road. It's kind of like a district that's marked by the main road, the library, and the highway. Okay. Now, like I mentioned in the previous episode, I was inspired partially by some of the city blocks in Paris that are right next to this library building in real life. And in that place, it definitely looks like it follows some sort of original geometry of those blocks with the row buildings and everything, just like in like 19th century or something like that, just like we do in Altengrad, but obviously with much newer buildings. So that's kind of what I tried to do here in Aurelia. So some of these blocks around here are made using just a couple of sets of buildings that I had, and I really wanted to just place them so that they are going to form these rows and these kinds of closed off blocks with the inner like yards just open. But in Aurelia, I just don't really want to detail that too much, unlike in Altengrad in some places. So it's usually just filled with trees, and eventually it's going to look really good. But really, this place, what I was aiming for is just some random medium to high density, so that there's going to be that contrast. This episode, I have to admit, is not really going to be that much about the urban detailing. Definitely not. And it's going to be more about the urban density. And the detailing is going to be reserved mostly for the nature. But we're also going to do some big footprint, like large scale things with the nature. So this is exactly what it is. Now, back when I was building that roundabout interchange on the highway, so that was the episode with that public transport hub, the bus terminal, I made this highway into a tunnel, and I mentioned that that's kind of a preparation for these kinds of landscaping changes where I would like to just put some kind of ridges which are going to form the edge of the city. And if you remember, we did a long time ago already, it was basically the preparation for the airport project. We did the episode with only doing the landscaping all around the map. So I, for example, did the changes to some of the valleys. I created the different rivers and all these kinds of things. And I was kind of learning how to do even this landscaping. So the techniques that I learned back then, I'm still using even today, even though I think I got slightly better. I'm not really sure if I'm all that good at blending the different styles of the map together. I can, for example, take a look at the mountains, and when doing this, I was taking a look at the mountains that were created by the original map creators. Of course, this is the vanilla map, by the way, from Parklife, I believe, Mountain Meadows, and the mountains that I created after that major map change video. And I'm pretty sure that all three are completely different. So I'm not really sure which is like better. It's kind of clear that with some of these, I'm trying to just go a bit faster, especially further away from the city, so not really trying to use that finer brushes, to do some kind of little valleys or ridges or something. And even here you could have seen me that at the end I just took that different brush, the one with the dots, and just do some kind of roughening of the terrain, which is kind of something that the original map creators did on the map. So this just blends it, better together. Now, this is going to be something super important, and this is actually something that I only thought of just before starting it. This was not planned at all. I was thinking at the start of this canal project that, and I was even talking about it, that it's just going to have many, many tiers, at least 3, but maybe 4. And lots of these tiers are just going to be surrounded by residential buildings, kind of similarly to how we did the original Canal Valley, the one from like episodes, 4 or 5, something like that. The one next to the main train station. But this one is going to be completely different because all of those previous ones were artificial. They were actually canals, like, in a concrete ditch or whatever. And this one is going to be natural. It's basically just going to be a river. I even did like a little island in that widened part of the river, and it's just going to be surrounded by mostly nature and those green cities, low density buildings, because I really do like them, and this is just going to be the transition that I talked about. So basically, we have that main avenue. It's going completely straight from the library all the way to that interchange, the infinity symbol interchange, right? The one that we did such a long time ago. And that avenue is going to form like a very, very hard line between the core of the city, the downtown, so the library area, all the high density blocks, medium density blocks, and right here it's just going to have only low density and lots of trees and just landscaping, rocks everywhere as well. And this river, which is, or not really a river, it's kind of like a pond actually. It's not really supposed to be like a flowing river with like super different elevations at the start and the end. And it's actually going to not really go much further because it still isn't on the same level as the upper lake. So we actually do need to provide some kind of a transition. And that's actually going to be a topic of the next episode. There's just going to be well, I'm actually not going to spoil it, so let's not talk about it any further. So yeah, this transition, this hard line that's formed by the main avenue, that is exactly what I was aiming for, because I'm really not good at these like supernatural transitions. And even back in that other part of the city, I really wanted to just do some kind of these dividing lines between different projects. So either it was the pedestrian highway, for example, which was surrounded by lines of trees, or again, the landscaping, the natural ridges between the greenhouse area and the low density, or the canal for the cargo harbor, all these kinds of natural, well, not really natural in case of the canal, these just dividing lines between the projects. So that's exactly in here, but in this case, this was just much harsher and kind of more obvious. And the plan was right at the start to just do it like this. So as you can see, the low density area is coming along nicely, and this actually ties to pretty much what I was talking about before, how I really want to just go towards these kinds of landscaping changes with the city and then do them, because I now have better picture like where should I end these changes and how are they supposed to look like. Obviously, in real life, if this was real life, it's not, it's a game. But if it was, then the city would have been built up to the mountains. It would not be the other way around, of course. No one would be sculpting these ridges after the city was built. But if I do it that way, it's kind of more convenient because, it's just going to nicely fit together. So that's just something that's kind of good. And I'm definitely not against doing these kinds of, like super hard changes to the map once it's already built. So even if I do some kind of future projects, different cities, different series, I'm probably not going to pay that much attention to how the map looks like before I start building anything on it. I'm just going to pick a place where I'm going to start, and if I figure out more projects later, further down the road, then I'm just going to do some changes on the map so it fits. So I'm not really going to make. I'm not even doing that in Altengrad, and that's supposed to be a bit more realistic city. I'm not even doing it there, so I'm not just taking the map and thinking, oh yeah, I'm constrained. Yeah, constrained. That's the word. By the map, because I just want to build the city how I want it, so I'm going to make the map changes as I want them to. Anyway, that's kind of obvious, so probably no point in explaining that. So let's just go back to doing some of the details in this area and basically just wrapping up this low density place. So I was mostly skipping in the time lapse building all these houses because they are mostly the same. Purely because I'm lazy, I kind of try to only use the 4x4 global building sizes because, well, they're the largest. You don't need to place that many of them. Don't need to click that much. And it's just going to, form as it's just going to serve as a very nice expansion of the place, a quick expansion, I should add. Now, these buildings were never supposed to be placed in some kind of a pattern, so that's intentionally done like this. Not all of these roads have the buildings all around them, so this was supposed to be like a very loose and low density neighborhood, even though, in some places the buildings are kind of arranged in 90-degree corners, but as you can see past this little stream, pond, whatever you want to call it, that's not really the case. Now, this area, even though it kind of looks natural, is highly artificial. I don't suppose that this stream was here back, when the city was just not here. And well, obviously it was not here because it goes directly from that upper lake, and the upper lake is held by kind of a high dam. So none of these water projects used to be here. This is all super artificial, but that's kind of a common theme in Aurelia. So, that fits the whole theme as well. Now, this place right here, this is the transition. It's supposed to be like a dam, I suppose, because it is dividing different levels of this canal. And I didn't really bother creating some kind of pipes or something, but we can easily imagine that it's down below there, and the difference in height actually is not that great. So this is not like a super dangerous dam or something if it burst or anything like that. And if it started to overflow, I guess it couldn't really, because there are those emergency spillways on the upper lake, so that's gonna be fine. But I do understand that maybe building the library as part of the dam probably might not have been the greatest idea, but it just looks nice, and that's kind of what Aurelia is all about. So that's fine. Anyway, doing these kinds of public transport detailing and stuff, I was actually not talking about it at all, but by the way, this tram line, yeah, it goes into this low density area, which is something that I really wanted to do. I don't really want to create some kind of completely disconnected, like those so-called satellite towns around the city. So this one definitely needs to have the public transport. I even put like a corner store, like a convenience store maybe in there, and just a couple of details here and there. But yeah, it's mostly just some little things here and there, but not really going to detail it any further. Now that tram line, that's the one that goes which one that is? Yeah, that's the normal train line. That's not a tram, sorry. That's not the light rail. We are going to see the light rail some more next episode. But this tram line is the one that goes from the crater, if you remember. The crater, like so ancient project at this point, but that's exactly the line. So it finally received its terminus, its proper loop at the end of the line. So that's nice. We are actually almost done with all of the trams, because in the next episode we're going to wrap up the light rail. And then we only have one more tram line that we need to finish closer to the island city, and that's actually going to be in the next episode. So that's kind of nice that we are going to start wrapping up these things. Oh, by the way, remember how I 3 episodes back told you that we finished completely all of the projects and all of the areas on the other side of the river? I lied, because I completely forgot that we didn't finish this little corner right in front of the airport. So this place was just kind of abandoned because I had no idea what really to do with it. So it had some temporary tram depot which served these rails, this light rail that's going through the suburbs along the river all the way to those solar towers. If you remember, that's exactly the light rail. That's the light rail that we have seen in front of the greenhouses, for example, at the Chapel Plaza and everything like that. And yeah, this place was just completely empty, but it's not really particularly big. It's just like a little strip of land in front of the airport, kind of, and on the side of the river. So there is this main road, which I eventually connected to the edge of the map, so it gets some traffic, but not more than that. There is this little interchange that goes on that red arch bridge. And since I do have intersection marking tools, I might as well do some detailing on it. And I think that this was actually the first time I discovered that you can do those circular edges on these grass fillers. But I eventually didn't use it, but I'm heavily going to use it in some future projects when I'm going to do some kind of tram intersections. Now, this was just some expanding of these areas, even though I do admit that this close to the airport, this probably isn't the best address in the city. So I didn't really continue doing anything past this light rail loop, and it's just going to be the lonely road going somewhere off the map. And also, one last thing that I completely forgot. When I was doing the airport, I never finished these edges of the runways. So finally I just did that. And since I already kind of know how Aurelia is going to be big, I don't really care about node limits anymore, because I can never reach them at this point in the planning stages anyway. So I just decided to put there some kind of colored networks, the same color as the runway and be done with it. So just some kind of a tiny detail that's going to be only noticeable when you just do those kinds of, or when we're gonna do those kinds of intro shots like we do at starts of episodes. Okay, so this is the finished thing. In that transition, you could have seen the scale of the landscaping changes, and they were actually quite big. The area that we filled, well, not really filled, but just altered to fit it better with the edge of the city was just big. It was a really, really big area. This view is especially something that I do like. Looking at the library and just seeing all of the places around it finished, it's just great. And also the canal that's running through the library building has that hole in the middle, and seeing that continuity between the canal and the river that we did up there, that's just looking good. I really, really do like it. And I think that the decision to not really put anything that tall right next to the library really paid off. These kinds of shots show that quite well, that the library just is the biggest and most distinct building in the area. That's just really good. That's what I kind of wanted to do, and I'm really glad that I managed to do that. This is the shot of the suburb, let's call it, by the new river. It's not really that dense, not packed with all these different houses, so that's kind of looking okay. You could have seen the trams running through the area, and actually there are quite a lot of people waiting on the stops. I think that in the next episode, or when I was building for the next episode, I had to increase a lot the vehicle counts on all of these lines that are running through the general area, so like couple of lines, even the tram line that's running in front of the library down here, because of just so many new people. And obviously that's kind of the point of this area. It was just a huge expansion of the residential places, so so many new inhabitants moved into the city, and the population of Aurelia right now is actually much bigger, so that's kind of nice as well, even though we don't really need that. Of course, the city is not really built for any kind of population goals. This is just a quick shot of that finished little piece of land on the other side of the river, right next to that arch bridge. But that's just like a remnant of the previous projects that I needed to do. And you also could have seen that shot going from basically the tunnels of the highway. That's the first view that you are going to see when you are going to enter Aurelia from that direction if you're driving into it. So that was kind of satisfying. I really liked that one. So thank you for watching. If you liked the episode, then you can do the usual. You can put comments in the comments section. You can put thumbs up under the video. You can subscribe to the channel and become a channel member if you want to directly support it. Big thanks to all the channel supporters. I really do appreciate it. Stay tuned for next videos. Take care and goodbye.